if you want to keep your balls happy. I am your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpaster, and tonight we got a special NFL show. Tomorrow we'll be back at 1 o'clock with myself and Sam Teese to recap all of the games that were played. And we're going to start off with the Minnesota Vikings and Dalvin Cook. Now, the Vikings coming in, only one win on the season. Very talented team that has not been able to get done what people thought they could this year. Mike Zimmer is on the hot seat a little bit. He has some questionable decisions he's made over the last few weeks. And today, Dalvin Cook was an absolute monster. And the thing we really learned here is this: a lot of people said, are the Vikings in rebuild mode? And the Vikings, man, it's hard to be in rebuild mode when you got a guy like Dalvin Cook. And he was emphatic today. He ran for 163 yards, picked up another 63 through the air, scored 4 touchdowns, and Minnesota's defense came out of nowhere to fluster Aaron Rodgers down the stretch. And while the Vikings' record improved to only 2-5, the team earned at least a little bit of NFL or NFC North bragging rights today. And like I said, Dalvin Cook was amazing today. And when we watch him, we got a little film up right now. And the thing about Dalvin Cook is he sets up the Minnesota Vikings D or offense. Kirk Cousins best at the play action. He helped set that up today. And the thing that you really have to worry about if you're the Green Bay Packers is the way they got beat up front by the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, great blocking all the way around, especially even with the fullback position. Dalvin Cook ran roughshod through this defense. And you really got to question Mike Pettine as the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator. And I think he's a guy who's in over his head. I don't think they've got the front seven to be able to compete with your best teams. And the Minnesota Vikings are not one of the best teams. And we saw Green Bay when they went to Tampa Bay a couple weeks ago. The same thing happened, only their offensive line, I mean, they got destroyed. And when you look at this, Aaron Rodgers didn't get it done at the end of the game. The Minnesota Vikings did. Dalvin Cook played out of his mind. Now are the Minnesota Vikings all of a sudden a playoff contender? No, they're not. At 2-5, the way the NFC is right now, you're probably going to have to win 10 games to be a wild card team. To do that, they would have to go 8-1 the rest of the season. They're not going to be able to do that. Kirk Cousins isn't consistent enough. But the biggest question here is, are the Green Bay Packers more than just a 1 or 2 man team? Because when you look at the Green Bay Packers, it's Aaron Rodgers. It's Devontae Adams when he's healthy. And the big concern here is the Green Bay Packers, sure, you're probably going to win the NFC North. They will win the NFC North. But when playoff time comes, there's going to be major issues here for them. And when you look at that as a fan of the Green Bay Packers, which I am not, the Green Bay Packers are in trouble. I think this is going to end like it did last year in an NFC championship game where they were just overrun and manhandled by the San Francisco 49ers because they just weren't physical enough. And that's what's going to happen to them again. All right, let's move on. And we're going to talk a little Lamar Jackson. We're going to talk a little Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers, and what was probably the biggest game of the day. And the end of the game, kind of a crazy finish here. Lamar Jackson does complete a big pass. He gets up, they're in position. And the problem here is Lamar Jackson, instead of kind of running around a little bit to try to get somebody open, tries to force the ball in between 3 defenders, which doesn't work very often, and it didn't work here. The question here is, are the Steelers for real? No doubt the Steelers are for real. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL, maybe the best defense in the NFL. Big Ben Roethlisberger is playing well. He's staying healthy. James Conner has run the ball all right. And the question, I think, coming into last week when they played Tennessee, the big question was they haven't really beaten anybody yet. Now they've beaten the Tennessee Titans. They've beaten the Baltimore Ravens, and they did it both on the road. Now, I know you don't have the big 60,000 people against them screaming throng, so it gets a little bit easier to beat a home team. But when you look at this, the Pittsburgh Steelers right now are playing as good as anybody in the AFC, and that's including Kansas City Chiefs. So, yes, Pittsburgh's for real. I think the bigger question is Lamar Jackson overrated? Every time we see Lamar Jackson in a big situation, he has issues. And today the Ravens ran for 260 yards, But the difference in the game was Lamar Jackson threw 2 picks. Lamar Jackson cannot throw 2 picks in a situation like that. And we've seen him 2 home playoff games completely fall apart and lose the games. We've seen him every time he plays Patrick Mahomes, he falls apart. And let's face it, Lamar Jackson has not played anywhere near the MVP standard he played at last year. So I think really questions have to be made here. And for the last 2-3 years, I've told people on the NFL show that I don't think Lamar Jackson is as great as what people say. I think he's a guy that has extreme talent. He's great at running the ball. He can throw the deep ball a little bit. I think he has a hard time throwing the shorter intermediate routes. And I think that's what's going to kill this Ravens team. The other big killer for Lamar Jackson is the fact that the Ravens haven't went out and got him enough weapons to distribute the ball to when he does throw it. So they're kind of a one-dimensional team. And today, that one dimension ran for 260 yards. And it wasn't enough to win. Because in the NFL, to be a great quarterback, you got to be able to make plays with the game on the line in big-time situations. And Lamar Jackson has not shown he could do that yet. A man who has shown he could do that yet is Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson's been showing it for a while. And Russell Wilson's one that I get a lot of crap from a lot of times because I keep saying he's the best quarterback in the NFL. And I've said that for the last 3 or 4 years. And right now, we are definitely seeing that. And today was no different. And the thing that really makes them scary right now is a man named DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is an absolute monster on the field. And now with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson has what he needs. Russell Wilson's never even received a vote for MVP before. Right now, hands down, he is the MVP. Aaron Rodgers for a while was up there with him, but then he had the game in Tampa Bay. He had the game today against Minnesota. Now, Russell Wilson last week against the Cardinals threw 3 picks, but he still threw 3 touchdowns. That was probably his worst effort of the year. No doubt worst effort of the year. And he still had his team with a chance to win the game at the end. The Seattle Seahawks don't have a talented defense. The offensive line is average. But Russell Wilson is an absolute monster. DK Metcalf gives him a weapon. Tyler Lockett gives him a weapon. The Seattle Seahawks are a definite Super Bowl contender. They're going to win the NFC West, hands down. Decent shot they'll be a number 1 seed. And with Russell Wilson, if you're the number 1 seed and you only got to win 2 playoff games, even if you don't have as much talent as the other team, Russell Wilson can figure out a way to beat you. And today, that's what Russell Wilson did to a 49ers team that had played really well the last 2 weeks. And even with a quick early lead with the 49ers, Russell Wilson is a guy who will impose his will on you. And in the end, he will beat you. All right, let's go to our final takeaway. I'm a Cincinnati Bengal fan, so I love this takeaway. This takeaway is Joe Burrow. Is Joe Burrow special? I don't think after watching Joe Burrow play 8 football games, you can come away with anything other than he is special. I mean, today, Joe Burrow threw for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns against a very good Tennessee Titans team. Not a very good Tennessee Titans defense, I'll give you that. But the composure Joe Burrow shows on the field, as watched this video, his ability to make the right reads, he doesn't turn the ball over. He puts the ball in. I mean, he takes the easy throw. He finds the easy throw. He makes it. And today, Tyler Boyd was off the charts. Auden Tate. I think this is the throw here. He makes the Auden Tate, which very few guys can make that throw. Very few guys can make that catch. That was actually T. Higgins. I mean, T. Higgins, Auden Tate, Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green, Gio Bernard in the backfield. They don't even have Joe Mixon right now. The thing about the Bengals is they're usually a laughing stock. Joe Burrow makes them not a laughing stock anymore. The kid's special. And this Bengals team, even though I think they are poorly coached, they don't have a defense. You look at the rest of their schedule after the 2 or outside of the 2 Pittsburgh games, this is a Bengals team that could very easily win 6 or 7 games before this year is over. The question is, will they make the right moves in the offseason to be able to put this team over the top? Joe Burrow is a special player, a special talent in a place that hasn't been very special for a long time. So today, what we saw from Joe Burrow is what we've seen all year. The difference is we saw some defense today. The play calling was much better. So things in Cincinnati, I'm not going to say they're turned around, but they are trending in the right direction with Joe Burrow as the leader of this football team. The weapons are there, and don't be surprised if the Bengals win one of those games against the Steelers just because Joe Burrow is special. Look at this. The escapability here Burrow has is unbelievable. This was on like a 3rd and 12. He gains 9 yards on it when it looked like he was sacked on 3 different occasions. And when you watch this guy play, the poise, the ability to make the correct read almost every time is mind blowing. And I heard Mike Lombardi today say Trevor Lawrence was better than Joe Burrow. But Mike Lombardi, the only thing you got is the name of a famous head coach as your last name. Because if you sit there and you tell me Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to come into the NFL with the New York Jets next year and be able to have the impact that Joe Burrow has right now, you're crazy. Remember, this is a Bengals team that only won 2 games last season and only scored above 23 points like twice the entire season. All right. So this may not be a special team yet, but with Joe Burrow, they could very well be by the time his career is over. I think Joe Burrow will win a Super Bowl in Cincinnati before his career is over. He may win more than one. He's that good. But those are our takeaways from today's NFL Week 8. Make sure you join me and my co-host Sam Teets tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern. We will break down all of the games and look ahead to tomorrow night's Monday Night Football game. I went ahead and did this show because the Eagles were playing the Cowboys, and I didn't really care. Let's just face it. Make sure you check out Manscaped. TGT20 is the promo code. Also, check out Replenishing Care and Technologies. Listen to all the Grilling Truth sport or podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. We will be live tomorrow at 1 o'clock on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch, Periscope, D Live, on Rockfin. You can always, and this is a Rockfin exclusive right now. So if you're watching this for free or if you're paying for it, this is the only place you'll see this show is on Rockfin. So make sure you come back, check out thegrillingtruth.com, follow us at Grilling Truth on Twitter.